about 2 hours of tape here, but we'll just see how we go, okay? And we'll make sure I'm recording. Okay. Now the way we start off at first is with some just very basic questions, and that is what's your full name?
My full name is Charles Wilfred Labrador,
All right.
and most people call me Charlie.
Okay.
That's about all they say. Everyone across the land knows Charlie.
Yeah. And what was your father's name?
My father's name was Louis. Louis
Labrador.
Labrador, yeah.
Okay. And your mother's name was?
Was Beatrice. Her maiden name was Jeremy.
Jeremy, okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember what your grandparents' names were on your father's side?
My grandfather on my father's side was named, he was Louis, and his wife was Mary Lou.
Okay.
And they was quite old people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your mother's parents' names?
My mother's parents' name, her dad was named Joe Jeremy.
Okay.
He was relative of the Luxys from Ketchimakuchi.
How would you spell Luxy?
Maybe Luxi.
Okay.
Yeah. And so her mother was named Lelia. She was a Paul from Laquille.
Okay.
And they're descendant from Chief Ben Pictou. He was an old gentleman that was the chief of Laquille that time, and so they was all relatives. I stayed there at the little place at Laquille, and they was basket makers and craft makers, and I knew them all. You know, there was Joe Pennell. He was a fiddle player, and his wife was named Christina, and her sisters, one of her sisters was named Sarah Fossey. Her picture's on a book that a lady over here had written. And
Darlene Ricker's book?
I think so.
Elsid Cook? That book, Elsid Cook?
Yeah, I think
yes,
so.
That's a very good book. Yeah.
Then Rosie was my great-great-grandmother.
Rosie?
Paul? Yeah,
Paul?
Paul, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have pictures of her home, and they was self-sufficient old people, you know. As far as their education goes, as today's European system, they had very little.
Right.
But they were experiencing survival. You know, same as me. I haven't got no, college education, but I have a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
You know, I have been here and there, and I've traveled a lot. And,
What year were you born, Charlie?
I was born in Bridgewater.
Okay. And what year was that?
1932.
Okay.
Yeah, in July.
All right. And did you grow up in Bridgewater?
My dad was in Vinnie Ridge, and after he has come home, he was suffering from, I'll say, broken promises. And he had his leg off, and had it off a couple times, and gangrene set in, and the medicine at that time was not that good. So today he could have been saved, but the wounds and things like that. Then when he was over in Vinnie Ridge, he lost his two brothers. Yeah, was four of the boys went over, and two come back. John Labrador and my dad come back, and the other two boys got lost their lives over there. Yeah.
What do you mean when you say your father was suffering from broken promises?
Well, as of today, you know, they said that when you come home, you will have this, you will have that, and they said, Bud, we will build you a fine house. He ended up living in a shack, tar paper shack, and as far as any welfare, it was practically nothing, and so it was something that worked on him all his life, and after a while, you know, it just takes the best out of you. So that's how it is. I guess today we're still trying to survive off of broken promises, you know, and things like that. But Well, with me, I have adapted to the system a wee bit better,
Mhm.
you know, because I lived everywhere. I lived in little shacks and houses, and lived in little bungalows with just Mother Earth for the floor, and I stayed on the shores of Smith Cove. I was in the film of The Last Porpoise Hunt at Smith
Were
Cove.
you?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
The one that Dr. Layton made?
Yeah.
You were just
Yeah.
a little boy then?
I was very little.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But I still remember some of it.
You do?
Mhm. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
tell me now, how big was your family, first of all? How many
My
children?
family, it was my sister and I.
Just the two of you?
That's
Okay.
all.
Now, would your family normally come to Smith's Cove for the summer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I come with the old people. The old people came there, you know, from Lochiel, and so they come down there to sell baskets to the Digby Pines,
Yes.
and they could pick up shellfish, and the fishermen would give them a certain amount of food, and so my grandmother worked at the Digby Pines,
Did she?
and there was a lot of food that was given away,
Mhm.
and people would bring in clothes. Now, not to fit me, but it was all done over.
Mhm.
Everything was done over, you know. And my mother had one of those little sewing machines with a crank on that you turn.
Yes.
So she would cut up the old clothes and make clothes for us, you know. And this was, you know, part of our life, you know,
Yes.
and we got kind of used to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where were your mother and father living at this point? Like when you would spend your summers in Smith's Cove, where would you?
When I stayed at Smith's Cove, my father had passed away.
Oh.
But my mother and I and my sister, we lived everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, we lived everywhere. We lived in Malaga on the Wildcat Reserve, and then we lived in Annapolis,
Yes.
and we lived on Bear River Reserve, and we stayed with their muses up there, Willie Muse in Bear River, and we stayed with the McCunes up in Bear River. So, you know, we traveled a lot.
Yeah.
We traveled a lot, yeah.
How would you travel from place to place?
How would we? My grandfather had an old car. It was one of those cars that you had to crank to get it going. And it would take all day to go from Wildcat Reserve pretty well to go to Bear River.
Yes.
Because, you know, we stopped in different places and
Yeah.
things like that. But we got there. The roads was quite rough at that time, you know. But that's how we traveled. And sometimes by train.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes by train.
So in those days, was your mother, I gather your father died when you were still fairly young.
Yeah.
Yes. So was your mother depending on relatives and people that she knew to help support her
Yes,
family?
we moved from, after my dad died, we moved back with my grandfather, Joe Jeremy, and we stayed with them people a long time.
And where did they live?
They lived on the Wildcat Reserve.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, down in Malaga there. And my grandfather, he was a craftsman, and he made first mast hoops for the schooner Blue Nose.
He did.
The original schooner Blue Nose.
Uh-huh.
Matter of fact, he made them all.
Yes.
That's the first original. That was a mast that held a sail that powered the ships.
Yes.
And I had helped him to make some, you know, what little I could do. And but he used to take them on his old car to South Brookfield and put them on the train. They would go from there to Bloomberg, and then they was put together a little bit better with bolts, and he supplied the mast hoops for a lot of sailing vessels, a lot, yeah.
What kind of wood would he use?
He used the young part of oak,
Mm-hmm.
had to be white oak. And so he also made the hoops for little sailing vessels too. There was only a little one, but the ones for the schooner Blue Nose, I think, must have been 40 inches.
Yes.
You know, and so that gave him employment, you know. And then he made pick handles and shovel handles for the old mines, because the mines running over our way, the old Malaga gold mines. And so he cut some wood for the what we call scaffold poles or stall timbers, That was for underneath. And you never got much for it, but it was survival, you know. It was survival.
What kind of wood would he make those out of?
That was made all out of oak, yeah.
Strong wood.
As strong as he could get, yeah, and it was the only outside part. The inside, they made something else out of. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm really interested in what all the things that you learned from your grandparents about living outdoors and making things. But first of all, I want to ask you if you went to school at all.
Yes, I went to school in Mliga. I went to school in there until 1947.
Okay.
And then I moved from there to Bridgewater, what we call the old Lipsgate Mines. And I went there to school till 1950.
Oh.
And so from then on, I went worked in the woods. So I've got some high school, and I guess my knowledge has been life. I have worked in sawmills. I have drove tractors. I have drove oxen. I have teamed horses, and as time went on, then I operated skidders, log loaders, and whatever was to be done. And I run a trap line for 15 years for my mother and my grandmother. We stayed in the woods, and so I helped to provide. And we only took what we needed, you know, and so that gave me the expertise of survival. And so, you know, it was something that I had to do because my grandfather showed me when I was 5 years old how to do trapping and set snares and things like that. Yeah.
What do you remember about that?
Well, it seemed to me like everything that we got, which was very little, we had to show it to the old people. And if the old people liked it, it was okay. But if they said it was no good, even if they were joking, we didn't want it no more.
Like, for instance, what would you show them that they might say was no good?
We may get, someone may knit us a pair of mittens, woolen mittens, and we'd show them to the old people, and they would just tease and say they're no good. Or, you know, would make us feel sad, and then they'd turn around and, you know, just tell us they were just joking. Yeah, everything had to be shown to them. Yeah, it was respect for the old people. See, the old men, they was all honored by calling them uncle. You know, Uncle Peter, Uncle Joe, and the women was aunts, like Aunt Sarah and Aunt Fanny, and like this. And so today we don't hear people saying to the old people aunt. You know, it was the recognition and the focus of the elders. That's what it was. And but within my travel now, I'm recognized as an elder, and I have worked with some members of the Grand Council, and I have sat in with the Board of Directors, the Union Nova Scotia Indians. I sat in with them till 1977. Then I put in my resignation, and I was chief of the band down there. What they call it today the Acadia Band.
Yeah.
And I found that the political structure wasn't my walk. You know, it's not my walk. But I want to be, like I say, real. You know, like our talk here today is real. You know, and because that was my walk. Like they say, you must walk the walk and talk the talk. So that's what I believe into.
When you were a young boy growing up, did you speak Mi'kmaq?
Quite a bit.
Did you?
I could understand quite a bit of it.
Yes.
But as I got booted around and also traveled around, I lost a lot of it. You know, because when I say booted around, it was from the Catholic nuns. I escaped the residential school, but they used to come in the summer in order to send us to Sunday school. And while our parents was with us, they used as good, especially me. But as soon as the parents went over the hill, the nuns would grab me back the neck, and they would shake me and they'd throw me. And I couldn't walk with them. They would push me ahead and bring me back and shake me. And when I got into church, there was a corner there that throw me so hard. In that corner, I go right up the wall.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, even with today, all I can do for those people is pray for them.
Yes.
You know, I can't see. As I have said, I have no enemies. I had one enemy, but I can work with that. That was me. You know, I had to learn to work with myself. But I think of the people that survived the residential school.
Yes.
You know, my friend Donna Augustine, she has a song that she sings about the residential school, and so you know, it's all true what she says, Donna.
How did you manage to escape the residential school?
I guess with my grandfather, he said we're sending our children to the local community in here. There's a school there, and we're getting along good. So the Indian Affairs come, and they come with their big car, and when they seen a kid, they wouldn't go in the house and say, we're going to take your children to Shubenacadie. They just grab them and throw them in the school, in the car. And so my mother, she had a long black coat. She cut that up and made clothes for us because the Indian Affairs said, you have no clothing. We'll give you clothing. You have them this and you have them that. So she cut her coat up to make us pants and a jacket. So if they could come back, she would show them to them. And my grandfather used to go peddling baskets. Sometimes he would trade for money, sometimes for food, sometimes for old clothing. What the Micmac called it was Dwixit. Dwixit in Micmac means trade. And so it would be brought back to the reserve, and my mother would cut it up and make clothing for us, you know. And sometimes they'd give us boots and shoes, and they was a bit too big, but we got by with them, you know. And so with this, when Indian Affairs come, we managed to escape because they told us, they said, if you leave us, you'll never come back. That means your spirits of the Micmac you may lose, or else your way of life here on the reserve you may lose, or so. It, you know, I remembered this and I thought about it quite sometimes, you know, but however...
Who said that, Charlie? Was that the old people said that or the Indian Affairs people?
No, my old people said
Okay,
that, yeah.
yeah.
But the Department of Indian Affairs, you know, they have been very rough for us. And they had, well, it was next thing to starvation. Well, matter of fact, people did starve. And with us, we had one house, and there was 2 families. Lots of times the little houses had 14 or 15 people in them, you know, and there was just one room,
Yeah.
you know, and we after a while, my mother and my grandfather made us a bed. We had to sleep on the floor, you know, for survival. And but it was the idea of how much respect the old people has given us, you know. Today you don't see that,
No.
you know, because it's a push-button world out there today.
Yeah.
And so the old people respected us a lot, real lot, you know, and with this. And I watched my grandfather repair canoes, and I helped him to make the mast hoops, and he showed me some of the trade of basket weaving and how to make axe handles and pick handles and stuff like that, and how to pound ash and things like that. And I learned the things of some of his tools and how to temper metal and things like that.
Really?
And some foods, how we prepared the food, and how the old people made a bannock, what they call loosekenickum. And they still make it up on Bear River Reserve up here, the
Is that
loosekenickum.
bannock?
Yeah, that is a bannock.
Yes.
It's something made new, you know, every meal. Sometimes they put it in a frying pan, and sometimes they put it in the oven in the stove.
Yeah.
But it's it was part of our life.
Yeah.
It was part of our life, you know, this year. And
When you say your grandfather taught you to pound ash,
Mhm.
what would that be for?
That was to make baskets.
Okay.
Yeah,
To flatten the wood? Or?
you took the ash and you split it 4 times, and maybe again, and you shaved it till it got square. Then you took it and put it on a rock or stump, and you pound it. You see, ash will come apart. Piece of ash tree will come apart, and that's what you make the splints out of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how they make the baskets.
Yes.
And so he showed me, and I helped him.
Yes.
And so I can make baskets today.
Yeah.
You know, I own a craft shop by the entrance of Kedjamakuji Park.
Do you?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, a little place there, and it's something, you know, takes away their loneliness, because I'm there with it, you know, and so that's part of my life too.
Great.
Yeah.
Did your family, were they among the Mi'kmaq that would take their baskets down to the neck in the Highlands to sell them?
No, that
No?
was the Bear River
Okay.
Indians. We used to come far as Laquille and sometimes to Granville. And then we would go towards Liverpool and Maitland Bridge and Kemp and Harmony and those places. Yeah. And some of them to Bridgewater. Yeah, we had to go from door to door. Yeah.
Do you remember what you would charge for, say, I don't know, a laundry basket?
A laundry basket at that time might have been $1.75. And today they're about, laundry basket today would be about $80.
Yes.
Yeah.
And well worth it.
Yeah, that's right.
Did the old people do any quill work when you were a little boy?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
But they worked very hard. They worked from in the morning till sunset in the winter and summer. And they could tell fortunes with tea, and they was quite good at herbal plants and medicines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you learn that as well?
I'm still learning onto it. Yes, I have taken up herbal plants and medicines, and I used to go out with my father out in the river, and I would dive off his old boat and dive down to the bottom of the river and pull out plants and bring them up, and if I got the right one, you know, it was great.
Yeah.
But you know, the bottom of the river was a lot of plants, and sometimes I would get lily roots, and he would put that away in the winter for different medicines. And in the winter, he would put a pot of medicine on the stove, and whoever come in the house would go to the stove and take a cup and take a drink of the medicine.
Oh.
Yeah, it was something that, you know, was part of his life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Now tell me about your trap line.
My trap line, I had, I had learned it first on the Wildcat Reserve, but in 1947, when I moved to Bridgewater, back in the old Lipsgate mines there, I worked everywhere, and when things got a little slack, I used to go in the woods and set traps and snares and do some hunting. So I made some money. It was to help to survive, and with my expertise, my grandfather had showed me, I could kind of out-trap the next guy, because I knew how to do it. The next guy, you know, he kind of done his traps quite sloppy. And but with me, you know, in order to trap, you have to move to the animal. So when you move to the knowledge of the animal that you're after, you know what is to be done. And so about every 2 weeks, I would send my fur away that I got, and then I would have a check coming.
Yes.
And it would help. And so.
What kind of animals were you trapping?
I trapped muskrat and beaver and mink and otter. Them was my main ones. And we done a little bit of squirrel hunting.
Okay.
Yeah. And
what would you use the squirrels for?
it was sent away to the fur buyer.
Really?
And what was left over, we fed it to our animals.
Would you do that with the carcasses of all the animals?
The mink and muskrat, muskrat was given to the animals, but the mink wasn't. The mink was I put back to Mother Earth. And
is that because they had a special taste, the animals didn't like?
yeah, they was something that was part of my life. The mink, he was a very skilled hunter and a mover.
Yeah.
So with this, you know, I put the carcass of it back to Earth. You know. Yeah.
When you say you fed it to the animals, like the muskrat, what animals? Dogs? Or?
Well, we had a dog.
Yes.
We had one house cat, and sometimes I used some of the meat for baiting my traps.
Right. Okay.
And then the bones of what was left over, I'd bury it in the woods. Yeah.
What about bobcats or?
The bobcats at that time I didn't bother with, and at that time there was very, very few coyotes.
Right.
But there was a lot of foxes, but the foxes wasn't of much value.
I see.
So I didn't bother with very many of them. Yeah.
This would only be a winter occupation for
Yeah,
you, right?
just a winter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'd work in the pulpwood. Yeah.
Now, which pulp? Who would you sell your pulp with?
We sold it to Bowater, Mersey.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this when you were working with oxen and a team of horses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I just work for a local person.
Right.
Yeah. And so then I just got so much for working for them by the day.
Yes.
Yeah. But you know, at that time, first when I started, we worked 10 hours a day for $4. Yeah. $4 a day. Yeah.
Would you be staying in a lumber camp on this?
Yes, I worked in lumber camps. We'd go in and stay till Saturday afternoon.
Right.
Then we'd walk out, and we'd have to go back in the woods again Sunday night in order to go to work Monday morning.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Now, which did you prefer working with, oxen or horses?
Well, if you got a good horse, it was okay.
Yeah.
And oxen, they was a bit lazy. You know, you had to make them move more often.
I see.
Yeah, I was quite small when young. I mean, when I worked for the oxen. But if you got a wild horse, he was breaking his harness up and pulling his shoes off and things like that. And but if you got a good horse, it was okay.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah.
How do you compare the type of cutting that you would have done in those days to the way things are, forestry's managed today?
Well, years ago we done select cutting, but today what is being done, everything is being destroyed with those things that they call processes or harvesters. And what I see about the harvester or processor is its weight. It crushes all the young trees that there's no tomorrow for the plant life. And the other thing about those processes is the oil leaks. Everything on them leaks, and that oil is going on the earth, and plant life can't survive. And why I say plant life is in the spring of the year, when our leaves come out on our hardwood, water goes up in the tree. Now it stays there till fall, and then it comes down. That's the kidneys of Earth. See, millions and millions of trees had done this and had cleaned the water, but today there's no trees hardly left. So our water is being stagnated, and it's poisoned. And so out on the west coast, the Hydeo Indians trying to block the roads for stop the pulp companies. But they was more powerful with the government, and they done some good. But now the fish out there in the west coast is not coming up the rivers like they should, and the cod stock is gone. And so with this, the tree, the plant life, also some of the plant life in the ocean, which is being overfished by trawlers. And by dragging those rakes, it's destroying some of that plant life, and it's also destroying the spawning beds. And with this plant life under the ocean, it helped to clean the water too. And it was energy that had to be given to the water, But man doesn't think of that, you know. All he thinks about is to be more powerful, you know. Yeah, and to be more richer. People had asked me, they said, Charlie, wouldn't you like to be rich? Wouldn't you like to be a millionaire? With this, I had to think of for about 10 seconds. I told them that I am rich. I am a millionaire. I have myself, you know. So that gives me quite a lot, because I believe in helping people, helping Earth, and to try to help others, you know, that is lost. I have done part of healing and things like this, and work with different plants and whatnot. And,
How much of that respect for the earth did you learn from the old people when you were a little boy?
well, what respect I learned from the old people was a real lot, because they had respect for Mother Earth, because all that we have here on Earth, you know, we got it for nothing. And today within our Bible we have 10 commandments. With our First Nation people we had one, love and respect. And with this it meant all of them. But our 10 commandments within the Bible is good, but very few people look at them, you know. And with respect of Earth, that's part of my life. It's part of my walk, you know. And so the old people has taught me a lot.
Do you remember them actually pointing things out to you and saying, you know, you must not take an extra fish because we have enough, like that type of thing, or?
Most of what the teaching that they have gave me was the walk. I traveled with them in the woods, and they would only take what they needed. And as they worked in the woods to haul a log out, they made sure that they only cut the select stuff, and they saved what was there, and they never polluted anything like they do today. You know, our oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams are being used today as a septic tank. You know, and so our Earth can't survive. No, it can't survive. And you know, my people is very old. Some of my old people is 141 years old. And today, if you can live to be 40 without under the doctor's care, you're old. You know, and a lot of things are happening. You know.
Now, basket making is something that somebody taught you, but my impression is that to be a healer, it would be something you're born with. Am I correct?
Yes, it's to be a healer is something you're born with, and also it's from the spirits. The spirits knows who you are, and he knows that you don't have to have $1 million, but you must have respect. And you walk the walk and talk the talk. So I have been quite successful with traveling and healing. And my friend Marlene Dykeman had told me about a young lady in the valley in the Windsor had MS. She said, someday, Charlie, we'll go. So one day I went over, and sure enough, we went and we seen this little lady. And I had carried with me a sacred blanket. It's a red blanket. Now this blanket I put into talking circles. I put it into the sweats. I took it to the powwows. I carried it with me in my car. So I went to see the lady. We talked with her a while, and she told me how sick she was. And so I said, I'm going to give you my sacred blanket. So she put it around her shoulders, and when she stood up, I got a lot of electrical shocks through my body. I told her, I said, you're healed. So today she's out in the Baffin Islands teaching school.
My goodness.
And she only had 1.5 years. That's all they gave her.
Yes.
And she bought herself a pickup truck, and she's doing real good.
And how long ago was that now?
She's been up there about 1.5 years now.
Excellent.
Yeah. And every once in a while I hear from her, and she said I couldn't feel better in my life. So with it all, she went back to the Halifax hospital to have her last checkup. So they come out and they said, Wanda, maybe you didn't have MS. Maybe you didn't. She's saying why. But said everything that was in you was gone. They were trying to take the benefit of healing her, which they, this would be natural for them. They said maybe it was the therapy, maybe it was this, but it wasn't. I think if should have kept going to their doctors, I'm afraid she would have lost her life, and things like that. And,
when did you first get an inkling that you might have healing powers?
I think it was, I have touched and shook hands with people, and that had broken bones, and I have touched people, and within days, minutes, hours, they was healed, and I just thought it was just a phenomenal. But after a while, I used this touch on my own self. When I had the truck had fell on my hand, had crushed it. It was in very bad shape, and so it was healed in the morning, and I went back to work. And it was.
Tell me a bit more about that. You described it a bit earlier.
I had worked in the woods quite a bit, and about a year and a half ago, I got hit by a tree. I got drove through the air, and I was unconscious for some time. I have scars on my back at 12, 14 inches long where I've been cut open. And it crushed my elbow here. This elbow here was broke. It was swelled up maybe twice the size as it is now. And so a young lady examined it. She's a nurse in the hospital. She also travels in the upper part of Canada, north. So she told me how many bones was broke, and she said you go down to the outpatients in Bridgewater and they'll put a cast on it. I said okay, and they said go right now. I said tomorrow I will go. So I sat there and I felt real strong, and I took my hands and I thought about the spirits. I rubbed them together, and I took my hands and went over my elbow, my whole arm, and as I went, I could feel the healing. I could feel everything healing. And the next morning, the swelling had went down, and I went to work. And the same way with my leg, I had broke my knee, and with this, it was bad for about 2 weeks. So I was going to go to, it was in the winter, and I was going to go to Big Cove, New Brunswick to take up gifts for people up there that was kind of underprivileged. So I took my hands and went on my knee, and I went down over my knee. And when I got to down around my ankle, I stopped, and all of the hurting went out of my knee and went down to my foot. And my leg was in quite bad shape, so I couldn't quite reach it. So the next morning I went and I looked at my leg, it was healed. But the other part, all the hurt matter was at my ankle, so I took my hands, went down over, and it left, So with this, I have attended talking circles and gatherings, and with my presence within a place, people said they could feel my strength. Well, I told them, I said, it's not me, it's the spirits, because me, all I am is just a worker, I'm just an ordinary being, and but it's the spirit that does it, I don't want to take their benefit for healing anything, because I'm just me, but however, with me, the Creator who made me made you. He made all of plant life. He made the thunder in the sky, and he also made the rainbow. So we've been made by one Creator, and so in so many ways we are sisters and brothers to everything out there, the plant life, the rivers, lakes, and streams. So as I have traveled, I have said in subnegama all my relations. So we are so many ways related, you know. But I guess it's the idea of having the time, being alone. These things had come to me. You know, my grandfather, he is deceased, but he still comes before me and talks to me, you know, and some of the old people. And
when you're sleeping, you mean, or?
Sometimes during the day.
Yes.
Yeah, and I am the 5th generation from Louis Luxey
Yes.
at Kejimkujik.
And was he a healer as well? Or?
Louis was a gentleman that helped to put the petroglyphs on the shores of Kejimkujik.
Yes.
And so Louis Luxey's daughter was named Katie, and Katie's son was named Joe, and Joe's daughter was named Beatrice. That was my mom.
Yes.
And so Louis Luxey's father was named Johnny Luxey. And so he was one of the people that watched the wooden ships land.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, you know. And so my son works at Kejimkujik, and my stepdaughter, but granddaughter works there.
Good.
Yeah, Jean Labrador. Mm-hmm.
Now, how did you meet Juanita?
My wife Juanita, I think it was when I was going to school, and we used to go to dances and whatnot.
Yes.
And we got together. I lived around the Bridgewater area at that time.
Right.
And so I met her then, you know. And
Is Juanita a Mi'kmaq person as well?
she would be about 12%.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's about 12%, yeah.
And how old were you when you got married?
I think I was 25.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah. What do you remember about your wedding? Where were you married?
My wedding was very small. It was the people that took me to the minister's place, the minister, my wife, and I.
Yeah.
And at that time I had no money, and I had borrowed $10 to give to the minister. And he took the money, and that was it.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, and
And
yeah.
where did you live after you were first married?
I lived with my wife's folks for a while, and
Right.
then we got a small house in Hibbs Cross.
Okay.
And about 3 years after we got married, we started raising a family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how many children did you have?
I have 2 boys and a girl.
Okay.
Yeah, my daughter Bonnie, she works with the band council, and my son Todd, well, he works with Parks Canada.
Good.
And my other son, he was working with Bowater Mercy. Now he's on his own.
What's his name?
Arlie.
Early?
Yeah, Arlie Charles.
Okay.
Yeah. And my youngest boy is named Todd Graham.
Right.
And
Which band council does your daughter work with?
she works for the Cadia Band.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
Cadia Band. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, just while I think of it, in some of my research, I came across a picture, a photograph, and I probably have it here, of 6 or 7 Mi'kmaq men. And one of them was John Labrador.
John?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my uncle.
Okay. They
Yeah.
say he was a very strong man.
Yeah, his strength was about 3 to 5 times today's modern man.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The old people, some of them, and some of the muses was very strong.
Yeah.
John Muse out of Bear River had the strength of today's men, say about 3 of them. Yeah,
My
he was
goodness.
extremely strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about what you remember about Dr. Layton making that movie about the porpoise.
That part there, I was about 3, maybe 4 years old,
Right.
maybe something like that. But when Joe Louis and Maltai went out to get the porpoise, they brought it in, and they made a big fire. Remember the fire?
Yeah.
And so part of a porpoise you can eat is edible. So I had part of that meat, and the old people, they made shelters. They'd have canvas or tent or something, and they broke branches off in woods and made a bed for us, and I stayed with them. And I ate by the open fire, and the shellfish, they depended a lot on the shellfish, you know, on the shores of the ocean there. And so there was a lot of Indians there that had come down there, Bear River Indians, and some of them from the upper part of the valley, and mostly from McQuill.
Yes.
And it was pretty good, you know. There was survival. It was way of getting by, you know.
Yeah.
And so then when the weather started to get cold, we would go home, you know. And
how would you travel home again?
well, sometimes they would get a taxi to go from Smith's Cove to Laquille,
Right.
and then the old people would come out and get me, pick me up. My grandfather was a birch bark canoe builder.
Oh,
Yeah, he worked in Sussex, New Brunswick with John Muse and Fanny Muse. My mother was only a little girl then, and they worked up there just below the pop bottling plant. And
there you are.
so when the weather started to get cold, my grandfather said, we gotta go home. So he made this birch bark canoe, and up there, and when it was ready, the weather was pretty good. They went down the river to the Reversing Falls, took it out, and when the tide was right, they put it in St. John, and they landed here in Digby. And so the town of Digby was very small at that time, and grandfather said, I'll stay by the canoe while you fellas go get a few groceries. And then they was going to paddle from there to Bear River. And gentleman come along, and he asked my grandfather, he said, would you sell your canoe? And grandfather told him, yes, I'll sell the canoe. And he said, how much would you want for your canoe? It was a new canoe. Grandfather said $16. So he said, I'll give you the 2 paddles too. And so the canoe was about 16 feet long, and with the money that he got from the canoe.
Did you say $16?
$16,
Yes.
yeah. Today that canoe would be worth $1,000 a foot. Yeah, because you know there would be something hard to find. I have one.
Yes.
I have a Knoll canoe, and with the money, grandfather had enough all winter till way late out in spring. Sent my mother to school, and had a lot of money. And yeah, I have the old canoe that was used in the porpoise hunt, the last porpoise hunt
You
at
do?
Smith's Cove. Yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Yeah, I have. And,
Can you pick yourself out in it?
yes, I can picture myself out in it if it's, but with this new machinery that they have, which is VTR,
Yeah.
travels quite slow. But
Yeah.
with the new stuff, it's kind of hard because
Yeah.
they travel too fast.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm the smallest guy there.
Are you?
Mhm.
Well, I saw that movie years ago. I
Did
used
you?
to work in the public archives in Halifax.
You
And
did?
we had it there in our
Oh,
department.
yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go to the archives
Did
in
you?
Halifax, yeah.
Yeah.
My friend Donnie Julian and I.
Yeah.
And we would, but today it's made up different, so I
Yes.
don't think I could do nothing there with
They're
it.
not open enough hours, you know, you have to be
That's
there.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, when your grandfather paddled from New Brunswick
Hmm.
across to Digby,
Mhm.
was he the only one paddling? Or?
No, John Muse.
Right.
John Muse, and my mother and Fanny Muse was just passengers. My
Yeah.
mother was just a little girl.
Yeah.
See, Fanny Muse was a sister to my grandfather's wife.
Okay.
She was one of the ladies from Laquille.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you have any idea how long that would have taken them to paddle that far?
Well, I imagine it took about best part of a day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And was that considered an unusual feat in those days?
The trip across there had been made by quite a few people from Laquille and Bear River area. They used to sell their oil across there in St. John, the porpoise oil,
Yes.
and they would go across. And some of the old people like Maltai, and they would go across with the canoe.
Do you remember Malta?
I remember, yes, I do. I remember Maltai. He was the son of Ben Pictou.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Did he live much longer? He was an old man when
He
they
was
made that
an old
movie.
man.
Yeah.
Yes, he was an old man.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, as a young boy, what religion were you? Or did you have a Christian religion as well as your native?
Our religion at that time was Catholic.
Okay.
But over the years, I still feel strong about the Catholic religion. But however, there has been a lot of mistakes made within the Catholic religion, and most of my belief today is to travel to powwows and also to do my own praying. And I smudge every morning with sweetgrass, and I have a smudge bowl. I smudge myself, and so I pray for my people in the morning.
Where do you get the sweetgrass?
You pick it off of the shore of, you can pick it here in Digby, and you can also pick it in the Annapolis area.
Yes.
And it's where the water and the fresh water and the salt water meet.
Uh-huh.
It's where the sweetgrass grows.
But it's a special kind of grass.
It is,
yes.
yeah. And it's a special time when you pick it.
I see.
Yeah.
What time is a good time to pick
It should be picked before the grass comes in blossom.
I see.
Yeah, yeah.
And now tell me how this, I'm just going to turn this over here, Charlie. And I'm interested in a description of how you use a smudge pot or a smudge bowl, did you say?
Smudge bowl.
Yeah.
It's a shell that is taken from the ocean. But the old people had used different things for smudge bowls. They used a little pot or a saucer or whatnot, and they used that. They put tobacco and into it and sage. Now, the sage that I use home is buffalo sage. It's sent out from the out west, and but the sweetgrass is locally picked. And but before we started our talking circles or anything, or started our day, we cleanse ourselves with sweetgrass and with the smoke, and so that was our belief, you know, and our tobacco. We we respect our tobacco.
When you say you smudge yourself, do you actually smudge yourself the way they used to do on Ash Wednesday?
No, what you do, you take the smoke from the sweetgrass and you put it over you.
Okay.
Once the smoke is on you, you can go all over yourself, your hands and arms. And if you think about, if you want to, which we most generally do, you smudge Mother Earth and the Great Spirits too, and you thank those people, those spirits too. And,
This is something you do by yourself every morning?
Yeah, I do that every morning, yeah.
I have a bed and breakfast in the summertime in Freeport, and we had a guest from Ontario, and she was Ojibwa, and she would do that in the mornings, go outdoors and light her sweetgrass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, it's traditional. That's practiced today all over the world. Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned talking circles a few times.
Yeah, the talking circle is a circle of people. You sit in a circle, a round circle, and you have a talking stick. And before you start, you smudge everyone with sweetgrass. That it's cleaning. And what is said in the talking circle is left there. You don't take it home with you. And some people talked about things that they have been carrying around with them for a long time. And after they tell the circle, they feel better. And so you pass the talking circle, the stick around, and it goes to the left because our heart's on the left-hand side. And it goes around, and if you want to, you pass it around a second time. And with the talking circle that I'm part of now, we have drummings. We drum. Each person has a drum. And so we drum for 20 minutes, and then we talk about what we thought about, what come to us while we was drumming. And it's quite a thing. It's we may call it strange, but it's very powerful, and you get phenomenal strength while you're in the talking circle. And I tend a talking circle over at towards Peggy's Cove every 2 weeks, and two of my friends are called. They're Lee and Marnie. I just forget their last names, and so people from there. They came from Dartmouth and Bedford and different parts, you know, Lunenburg and Bridgewater and places, and it's nice, you know.
Yeah.
It's really nice, you know.
Not just Mi'kmaq people involved in it.
No, it's same as what I said that in Timnogama, we are all related. So it's people, you know, it's people that comes there, and one time it was mostly just the First Nations people, but today, you know, in order to walk the walk and talk the talk, it has to be us, you know, and because the Creator made those people, made the First Nations people. The Creator made everything, you know. So we must learn to work together and to hear what the other people has to say too, you know, because they have to survive here in this earth too, you know. You know.
How much opportunity do you have to teach young Native people these days?
I'm with that now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm teaching. I go to the Friendship Center in Halifax, and once a year when we have Mi'kmaq Cultural Day, and also to the Mi'kmaq hotel there in Dartmouth. I go over there sometimes, and sometimes with our talking circles, small people will set in, and then we'll give talks, you know, and so young people are coming, but not very fast. I find the older people moving quite fast.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
When you were, I'm sorry I keep jumping back and forth in your age, but when you were a little fellow, in the summertime, was there a festival of any kind? In Cape Breton they have the St. Anne's Festival, right?
There was St. Anne's Festival, and there always was a festival at Bear River, what we call Cherry Carnival.
Right.
And we'd go over there.
Yes.
You know, and then around the area that time there was what we call garden parties, and a lot of people would come to garden parties, and also some of the places had what we call pie sales, and people would travel from a long ways to go to a pie sale, you know, and my Uncle Joe Pennell would go with his fiddle. He was a fiddle player.
Yes.
And I asked Joe one time, I said, what's the difference between a fiddle and a violin? He said, when I learned to play, it was a fiddle.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess that's what it was. You
Yeah.
know?
How much of a factor did racial discrimination play in your life?
Well, at that time, it was out there, but I lived pretty well in the woods. And so it didn't hurt me a great lot, but as I got out and working with the Union Nova Scotia Indians, you go to a motel, they would put you in kind of a secondary room. And when you went to into the dining room, you would be sitting by yourself. Everyone was set off to the side. But today it's a bit better, because you know the Mi'kmaq, he's got a voice in there today, you know, and he's starting to move. And but with all this discrimination that has been, I pray for those people that someday they will be able to find themselves and to look back and say, what was it for? You know, what was it for?
Have you always felt the same pride you do now in growing up as a
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yeah, I always want to be Mi'kmaq, First Nations, you know. About 4 years ago, I was up to Big Cove, New Brunswick, and I was driving through the reserve there in Big Cove, and I heard a voice. And I asked the lady what it was. And she said, Charlie, that must be your spiritual name. So it was given to me. My spiritual name has been given to me on Big Cove, New Brunswick. My spiritual name is Snowman, because the people says, Charlie, you're more of a spirit than you are a man. Because you have saved one lady 1,500 miles away from where you was. And
Tell me about that.
I had got a vision of a place where this young lady was. She was to a place where they were doing going to build a shopping center, and she went there because they had dug out a lot of remains of First Nation people, and she's picking the bones up. And she was there for 4 days, and so spiritually I moved there. And as I came from where they was doing the work, this man come out and he had this piece of pipe or a club, and he struck me. And I woke up, and I was hurt then home. I stayed in bed then for 2 days because I was really injured. So I picked the phone up and I called her, and just happens that I got a hold of her, and I told her, I said, there's a gentleman coming, and he's quite angry with the work that you're doing. And I described his clothing, his hat, and also what he looked like, and also his beard. That night, as she was driving her van, he hauled out right out in front of her. And the car lights, her van light showed the gentleman getting out of his vehicle. And she said, that's the man that Charlie told me about. So she was ready. And if he would have hit her like he struck me, she would have lost her life.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I have been her protector for some time, you know, and this can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why was he so angry?
Because it was their, she was holding up their construction of
I
this
see.
large shopping mall.
And
Yeah.
is this woman, this young woman, is she a relative or a friend of yours that you had known before?
She's a friend of mine.
Right.
Her name is Donna Augustine
Yes.
in Big Cove, New Brunswick.
Okay. Yes.
And so she has been a friend of mine for some time. And her and I have traveled together some, and she has some tapes out now. And
Oh, she's the one, Dawn Augustine,
yeah.
with the song about the residential school.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look that up.
And so she has several tapes out, her and her brother, Jimmy Augustine.
Okay.
And so, yes,
Well,
I have been friend of those people for some time.
Where else have you traveled in your life?
When I was with the board of directors, I traveled as far as Ottawa, but since then I have got invitations to go different places, but I never went. But I used to Quebec, and I've been to New Brunswick, and I've been all over Nova Scotia, and traveled in these places. But I have been invited to go to Queen Charlotte, but I never got there. I've been invited to go to upper part of Ontario for 8 days, but I never got there. And just recently I got a invitation to go to Germany. I have worked with the German people for some time because their belief in some of their cultures was quite similar to the First Nation people. And so someday maybe I will get over to Germany. I think it was Hundsburg, something like that. And so I have talked with some German people. In order for me to talk to them, they have had a translator.
Yes.
And they wanted to know about the drum. I told them about the crying drum, and I also told them about the rawhide drum. You know.
What's the crying drum?
The crying drum was made with the strings on back, that when you hit the drum, you would squeeze the strings, and the drum would cry.
Oh.
You know, and I have 3 drums home.
Yes.
And so when I go to Drummond's, I take one with me, you know. But
where did you get these drums?
one was given to me, the one that I have, and so I guess one I bought, but 2 of them was given to me.
Yes.
You know, and I have blessed the drums, and so you know, it's quite a thing. Sometimes I think about drumming in the morning, about 2 or 3 o'clock. Sometimes I get up, you know, take my drum, and it's part of me. You know, it seems to me like it kind of relaxes me when I drum. You know, and
drumming part of your childhood at home?
I guess it has been, but drumming wasn't part of my old people that much, but before them it was. Before them it was. They had went to, but you see around in the 50s, Indian Affairs, the federal government forbid us to drum or powwow. They took our Waltez and they drilled a hole in the center because the old people put water in the Waltez and they could tell how the weather was. They could tell how people were sick. They could tell about what kind of medicine they had to go get. But the federal government looked at this and he said we have to get rid of that Waltez. So each Waltez was brought into the Department of Indian Affairs and there was a hole drilled. That way the water wouldn't stay in.
What's a Waltez, Charlie?
Waltez is a wooden plate made out of a knurl, lump on a tree,
Yes, yes.
Quite thin. And it was a game that was played. And so different things could be done with the Waltez, and the Department of Indian Affairs couldn't figure out how it was done. And today it's being brought back. Our Waltez is being played again. And I have one.
Yes.
And
And
with
as recently as the 50s, they destroyed those.
yeah,
Isn't
it was.
that awful?
Some places we had healing trees, and
Yeah.
the healing tree, some of the old people would go to the healing tree if they had a sore back, and they would set up against the tree, maybe for 2 days. It would heal them. It actually worked. So the last healing tree that got cut down was cut down by 3 or 4 men, native men. The Department of Indian Affairs demanded that they cut that tree down because it again, over-the-counter drugs was being eliminated because they wanted to be NISCOM. They wanted to be over all of us. They wanted to be better than us. And so with our medicines gone, our powwows gone, our gatherings gone, with the residential school, they wanted to try to make us non-native. And it never worked. It never worked. And with their winning, which they lost, I think today they are feeling quite sad. But with their winning, all we can do is pray for those federal people, because as far as feeling mean, I haven't got that in me. I haven't got meanness in me, and it's people that I work for, Yeah.
So how hopeful do you feel about the future now?
I still think that there is a future for us, I still think there's got to be a cure for cancer and diabetes. I'm a diabetic.
Are you?
Yeah, and that's where I was this morning to have a blood test. But with myself, I'm not letting it bother me, and I have my own medicines to home, and I feel someday that we will find a cure for medicines to heal everyone, everyone. Yeah.
Well, what haven't I asked you about that I should know about?
I guess you never asked me about some of the tools that we use.
Yes.
I have some there.
I'd love to see them.
Okay.
Why don't I, let's see, if I bring that bag over, would that be okay? Charlie?
Yeah, you can bring 2 of them over.
Okay.
The blanket, and I'll tell you about the bow and things like that.
Because I've got the mic on you there.
Okay. And
And I might take the camera right off the...
okay. And in here, I will show you of the.
Yeah, I can watch it from here. I'm going to move it back so I can see more, okay?
Okay.
That's great.
I have 2 bows here, what today we call bow and arrows.
Yeah, okay.
And this shortest one was one that my grandfather showed me how to make. It's small, and it has only a heavy part of the arrow. It has no feathers. And it would be used for breaking through brush piles and things like that. You would kill a rabbit or a partridge or bird with it. and the bow
With
was
the blunt end?
with the blunt end.
Really?
And that always went ahead. When you shot it in the air, it'd come down that way.
Oh.
And the bow was small, so you could go through the brush. And so that was what we used for hunting.
I've never
And,
heard of such a thing.
Yeah, and it has two little hooks there, and
Yeah.
so we put it this way, and we shot that way, and it would hit a rabbit and kill the rabbit.
Yes.
Now this other bow that I have here is normally what we would use for hunting,
Yes.
and I have no arrows with it.
Right.
But that was big enough to shoot a deer or whatever we wanted.
Uh-huh.
Today they have larger bows, but you know, today there's no game left.
Yeah.
So this was a bow that they used to hunt big game.
What is that made of, Charlie?
This is made out of ash,
Is it?
and
Okay.
this here is made out of sinew.
Right.
That's part of a animal.
Uh-huh.
On the back, you roll it together, the part of his back, and you make this.
Yeah. How long would that sinew last?
This sinew will last 5 years.
Would it?
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
what kind of feathers would you use on the arrows?
we used to use just ordinary feathers.
Right.
You know, off of a partridge or eagle feathers. You had to respect them. You couldn't use them on an arrow, and you only used 2 feathers, one on top, one on bottom.
Oh.
Today they use 3 and 4,
I see.
but I find them to hit their string, and it knocks their arrow out. In my drum bag here, I have a few tools,
Yeah.
and I will explain the tools. Some of them are usable, and some of them are quite old. But now, this here is an old draw knife that the old people used
Yeah.
to shave wood, and they made all kind of crafts. It's an old one,
Yes.
and it's
Would
been,
one person use that, or is that?
yes,
Yeah.
one person used it,
Uh-huh.
and he used this, and that was. This is quite old. This the old draw knife is quite old. It was made by a local blacksmith. It was pounded out of a piece of iron, and he made that. And the blacksmiths would make that time for about $1.50, or $1.50. And so with that, now I have another one here. Was part of our family. It was used by a lady, and I don't know where this come from, but it has been part of our family. I put tape around it so it wouldn't. And the women folks used to use this.
It's quite fine looking.
It was a very fine little draw knife, and it's the only one that I ever seen like this.
Yes.
You know, and so that's part of my collection. And within here I have pull some of these old tools out here, and then I'll explain them out to you more. And
Gathered quite a few things.
yes, now this here is a splint cutter. Those you take your splints, you put on there, and you pull it apart to make smaller ones. And back of it here is like a fiddlehead.
Yes.
The old Micmac was quite musical,
Yes.
and so that was the fiddlehead. And the Micmac called them lubby-soakum.
Yeah.
And so this is quite old. It has been, I think it was made around turn of the century, in the 1900s, you know.
And how was that used again, please, Charlie?
Beg your pardon?
How was it used again?
You put the splint in here,
Yes.
and you pulled it, the long splints,
Yes.
and then you would separate. You could make 3 out of this one.
Okay.
Yeah, and here's another old one.
Right.
Of course, it's broken off,
Uh-huh.
and here's one here that I use today,
Uh-huh.
and it has the teeth in it here.
Yes.
And
So that fiddle end is just a decorative thing, really?
yeah, that was
Yes.
just the decorative part of it, because most of those old people was quite musical,
Yes.
the old Micmac. And this is an old crooked knife. You put them in your right hand or left hand. This was made with an old straight razor. And the tape that's been around here, some of the old people had arthritis in their hands. They couldn't get them closed, so they had to make the handle bigger.
Okay.
So they could shave, you know.
And that was used For what?
And that was for making baskets and making hooks and handles and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
And they also, if they was going to fix up a deer, they would skin the deer with that.
Uh-huh.
And I have another old one here. This old blade here was made, must have been made back in the 1800s.
Wow.
Part of my grandfather's.
Wow.
And on here was an eagle's head, an old crooked knife. And this is ordinary rabbit wire.
Wow.
And it was used to do the work.
Yeah.
And so I have a couple more little ones here that was made, those was made not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I picked them up, part of my my collection there
What
too.
would they be used for? Those
And they was made for the same thing,
Yeah.
making baskets and things like that. And so then I have another old one. This old blade here is, I found it where my father and mother, my grandpeople used to live.
Really?
And so I got an old handle put onto it.
Wow.
And so it's an old one. And
They probably used that, eh?
they used it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used it. And so that's part of some, and this here little bottle,
Right.
that's bear grease.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's grease that I take in the morning sometimes, not always,
What
but
do you
I'll
do
put
with it?
I'll put it on my hand
Yeah.
and I'll rub it and put it over me, put it on myself for healing.
Yes.
It's used for healing purposes.
Where
bear
did you
grease.
get that?
That's taken from when someone kills a bear.
Right.
When the skin is taken off,
Yes.
that drips off
Yes.
onto a board and runs into a container.
Okay.
So
Doesn't have to be boiled? Or?
no, that's and the thing of it is with the bear grease, you can keep it forever.
Yeah.
It won't. You don't have to keep it in the fridge or nowhere,
Uh-huh.
and it has very very little bit of odor.
Uh-huh.
But fish oil and other oils, you know, they get bad.
Yeah.
They'll spoil. Yeah.
That's why you have hardly any wrinkles.
Yeah. Yes. With bear grease was used for different things.
Mm-hmm.
They used it sometimes when they made canoes. They put part of bear grease in with their balsam
Yeah.
as spruce, and they put so much in order to have it so their balsam wouldn't get hard. It had to be soft because when you hit anything, it would scrape off.
Yes,
If
okay.
it's made right, it would just get rubberized, you know. And
It's amazing
yeah.
how much they knew, right?
it is. It's
Yeah.
it is. And with me, I carry my tobacco,
Yeah.
and also with me, I carry sweetgrass,
Uh-huh.
and so there's different things and that people give me, and I have
some tobacco for you today, and I totally forgot, and I apologize.
yeah. And this here is a picture of my grandfather,
Oh,
and so
isn't that
yeah,
wonderful?
I have a large picture of him home, you know.
And which grandfather is this?
That was my mother's dad.
Mr. Paul.
His name was Jeremy,
Mr.
Joe Jeremy.
Okay.
He was the gentleman that made the masthead for the schooner Blue Nose.
That's a wonderful
Yeah.
picture.
And,
Yes.
I have quite a collection of pictures home. You know.
Maybe sometime I can visit and make some copy photographs. of
Okay, I have some old baskets home. I
I'd
have
love
some
to see that.
different things home, and quite a lot of. I have quite a lot of collection.
Yes.
You know, I have carried some of this with me when I went from school to school,
Right.
and I have give talks with different people and different organizations. And
You'd be interested, sometime you should come to Freeport where I live, because a friend of mine who lives right on the point overlooking Grand Passage called me one day. She was digging in her front yard. She said, "Chris, you have to come see what I found." And there were clay pottery shards with designs on them, and tons of clamshells and bones that were burnt, but also a tooth with a hole drilled through it, and a beautiful bone. It had to be a tool because it just fit in your hand like that. So I called Frank Muse, and we called Stephen Davis, the provincial archaeologist.
Mhm.
And he sent an archaeologist named David Christensen down.
Mhm.
And
I know him.
he's
Yeah.
a very nice guy.
Yeah.
And they figured that that was an encampment about 500 years old, that the Mi'kmaq would have come there every summer because they could sit up and they could see any porpoise or seals or
Mhm.
anything coming through, and they could dig clams in the cove right down below,
Mhm.
and it was in the lee of the wind, so they would be protected from the north wind.
Mhm.
And they took, from my friend, they took all those artifacts, and they told her not to dig anymore there. If she's going to have a garden, they said put a raised garden, but they figured that was 500 or 600 years old. And those pieces of pottery, you could see the design cut right
Yeah.
in them. It was
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah. But you should come down sometime. You
Yeah,
like
I
that.
would like to come over there. There's another lady that's down towards Church Point.
Right.
She wrote a book,
Oh,
and she picked up an article that was put in the paper
yeah.
that I had, someone had quoted me onto,
Oh,
and she wants to meet me sometime.
yes.
But she's a writer. She wrote several books, and so she's fighting, trying to save our earth too, you know,
Yes.
the overfishing and things like that. And,
Would her name be Jan Slackoff? Does that sound familiar? Around Weymouth, I think she lives, but she's an environmentalist and very, see her name in the Digby Courier quite a lot.
no,
No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I just forget. I got it written down home there, and but she has. I have a copy of her book that she wrote about the plant life under the ocean, under the sea.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
So it's quite a. There's a lot of people that's coming forward that has interest into saving our earth.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Each year I have a gathering at KG, and this year gone by was their fourth year. 28th of September till the 1st of October this year gone by, and then we had the unveiling of the plaque at KG,
Mm-hmm.
and we had the Grand Council there this year, and also the Jingle Bell dancers and the drummers, and so it was quite nice because we unveiled a plaque. Now this is going to be put up at KG to commemorate the First Nation people.
Good.
You know, and so we have come. It has been a very good year.
Good.
Yeah, and this was the first year that I got to the powwow at Bear River.
Mm-hmm.
I was quite busy all the time, so I just took time, went to Frank Muse's powwow, and it was quite nice.
Mhm.
Small, but quite nice. And but I used to one at Big Cove, and also one at Truro, and one at Gold River,
Mm-hmm.
and then this one. And I never got to the Sundance.
Mm-hmm.
That was in Big Cove.
Okay.
Yeah, that's quite nice, and I never seen one before.
No.
No, no.
Will they have one next year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they will be, and everybody's invited.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone's invited to them, and it's very nice, you know, the people that is coming out and to take notice of what's happening. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
find in the summer, because I have the bed and breakfast, I find it very hard to go anywhere because
Yeah, where is your bed and breakfast?
in Freeport on
Freeport.
Long Island. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You
I was
and
over
Juanita
there.
must come down and have a cup of coffee sometime.
Yeah,
with me.
I will. I was over there here, I don't know if this year, to that place where you walk out where the rocks are,
Yes.
and that's off to the left.
Yeah.
And the sign says that they are lady slippers. They're not.
Oh,
Those
really?
are skunk cabbage.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, there's quite a difference.
it is.
Yes.
The skunk cabbage grows very deep in the earth,
Yes.
and so the sign says they're lady slippers.
Oh.
And the skunk cabbage was used for curing diabetes.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, there are some people that actually got cured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually got cured.
What
And,
would they do with it? Do you know?
they would steep it,
Yes.
and it's quite hard to drink.
Mm-hmm.
You steep it. You don't boil it. You just steep it, and you would you would take so much of it each day.
Right.
And other than that, over in the shores of Maine, on the shores of Maine, there was lots of skunk cabbage growing. But, you know, it was just unreal to see so much skunk cabbage growing over there in that place, you know.
On Long Island, we have a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also pitcher plants, those funny little
The pitcher plant, yeah. And I went from there to Briar, to
Yes.
Little Island, yeah.
You had a
Small
good
island.
tour.
It is, yeah, great, you know, it's, to see that place, and it's a wee bit more than what I thought it would be.
Yes.
You know, I didn't think that we had such a strong place, so handy. Yeah.
It is quite beautiful, isn't
It
it?
is so.
I find, yeah.
Yeah, it is
I love
really
it.
nice, yeah.
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 Well, I thank you so much, Charlie. It's
Okay.
very interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm going to call you at some point
Good.
and come and visit you.